Welcome to Faith Rising, a podcast about living with bold faith in the modern age. On this episode, Daniel and Amber chat with Isaac Pierce about his deliverance from alcoholism.
Welcome back again to Faith Rising. Today's going to be an awesome show. You're definitely going to want to share this. It's going to be a very, very helpful show. Some crazy things might happen because we have Isaac Pierce on the show.
How's it going?
Who's Isaac Pierce to you?
Some crazy things will happen. We already know it. Isaac Pierce is my younger brother. We grew up together, and it's such a pleasure to have you on the show today. And
thanks for having me.
To be with us and visit and minister to people. It's really awesome.
He has a very, very big testimony, and he shared about it a little bit in church, but we wanted to really sit down and talk about the process. I guess, was it 10 years ago?
Yeah, it was 10 years ago. It'll be 11 this coming Thanksgiving that I sobered up from alcohol and all that good stuff.
He almost died, and I got blamed for it.
A couple of times.
Well, it was a very volatile time in the family because everyone was worried about him,
Yeah, and that's just kind of how our family is. We all fought, and we fought each other, we beat each other up, and
nobody beat me up.
And but it's character building. So that was always the good thing about
That's
it.
what separates the family from the friends.
But we always came back, and you fight with each other, but as long as you can come back and reconcile and love each other, that's the important thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
That's what makes
a lot of our viewers, as they watch our show and they watch Amber and I in here, and we've had mom and dad on the show as well, they get the impression sometimes that families are perfect, that we're perfect, or whoever they see on the screen is perfect. But in reality, we go through a lot of different things, and that's what builds our testimony and brings us to the place that the Lord's able to really use us. So one thing with you that's so interesting is that I think you're the first person we've interviewed on the show other than mom and dad, and your testimony and how the Lord brought you face to face with Him and set your life on a track is a huge testimony, and it really is going to minister to a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. Well, so with where I started on my journey with alcoholism really is there was a couple of times before my first real big episode with it that I would take sips here and there, and I was actually talking with you guys a little bit before this, and I was a big skateboarder, and so I was skateboarding for several hours outside in the heat, and came inside, and as a child you think, I'm going to get hydrated, so I'm going to go drink a Mountain Dew. And so I went into the freezer, which I thought was the fridge, and grabbed this little bottle, and it was sour apple vodka. And I was amazed by it because I was like, wow, this liquid isn't freezing in the freezer. I was a stupid
like
kid.
Like a moth to the flame.
Yeah, just a moth to the flame, like, wow. I got to drink it now. So sure enough, tasted it, and I was like, wow, that burns. That's crazy. And so that was like my first real sip of hard liquor. And but my first big episode was when y'all were gearing up to get married, and I was left home alone. And
we've been wedding planning all day.
Yeah, y'all were doing wedding planning all day, and so I just was left to my own devices to cook for myself, which cooking for myself back then was just throwing fish sticks in an oven or ramen noodles.
Stressed you out a little bit, so you had to have a drink, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it stressed me out. And so I was going through the refrigerator just to find, something to drink, and there was a box of wine, which that's what all the fancy people would always drink, and we were really fancy back then. And so I was like, oh, I'll just try this. It looks like juice. I clearly wasn't a smart kid. And poured a huge glass of wine and just chugged it back because it tasted great. And that just led me to drink the entire box of wine. And so, if you're not a drinker, and that's the first time you drink, well, you get drunk pretty quick.
Was it pink wine?
I don't remember. I was drunk and a child.
We walked in, and he was like slamming like his body was just like slamming around like in the kitchen.
I was having a good time.
I had
Little bit
just
floppy
met them
that day.
all, so I was like, what is going on?
Yeah, it's a
around
great
here?
first impression.
First thing I said was, I won't ever tell anybody. But
Yeah.
here we are telling everybody.
Oh, yeah. No. And here's the thing with that. A lot of people feel so ashamed
Yeah.
in the things that they go through, their trials, their tests, that they don't want to tell anybody.
Yeah.
Well, telling people about what you've gone through is a really good way to set someone else free, seeing the freedom that you have in your life. And so, yeah. So, I mean, I gladly do that. I love sharing with people about those things. There's, I've had countless conversations with certain people that are just like, oh, you got to let that go. It's the past. The past is the past, and which is true, sure,
Yeah.
but it's your testimony, and
Yeah.
you can't have a testimony without a test. And I like sharing
Yeah.
those things because it is freeing. It is
Yeah.
freeing to be like, I understand that you think that I'm dwelling in this old season of my life, but in reality, I'm just rejoicing in the
Freedom
where I
that you
am
have.
now, and the
Yeah.
freedom that I have now, because I don't feel swayed when I see a drink. And that was also one thing. Whenever I started sobering up, the Lord told me specifically, plant yourself around this so that it's not ever going to be a problem. And so, I mean, my whole family kept drinking. My friends would drink.
I quit for 21 days
Oh my gosh, you're so sweet.
while you were going through this.
You're precious.
I know. I just I didn't drink for 21 days.
You interceded on my behalf.
We're shooting for sainthood here, man.
Yeah, yeah,
Help
yeah.
us out.
We both didn't drink for 21 days.
No, we
but
didn't.
Daniel
We did
only drinks
fast
once a
for-
month.
I don't
these
drink
days
much at all
anyway.
now,
Yeah.
to be honest. And I didn't quit because I had an addiction to it. I quit because it was just adversely affecting my health. I felt
Yeah.
like, and I've felt better, since I did.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything wrong with people having a drink sometimes if
No.
they're led to do that. But it's a
don't
freedom
either.
that you take to the Lord, and if He sets you free to do that, you do it. And if He doesn't, then some people are called to stay away from it.
Oh yeah,
completely.
I agree 100%. I mean, also, it's can you handle things in moderation? Because in moderation, like drinking can actually benefit you. 2 glasses of red wine is actually good for your heart. 4 bottles of red wine's probably you're gonna wind up in a ditch somewhere.
Gonna damage something.
Sounds like
You're gonna damage something.
You're gonna throw up.
Yeah, you could throw up, or
man.
just something.
I
Just
think during my
bad.
teenage years, I got really drunk 3 or 4 times. I mean, to the point where I vomited or had the spins or
Yeah.
different. That's a bad feeling. I mean,
It's a terrible feeling.
That's really.
So
of
like on
anything
a
I can think
day-to-day
of, that's-
basis.
That's really
It's
bad.
miserable. But what I learned, because when I first started drinking, I was 15 years old, and so I wasn't able to just go out and buy it whenever I wanted to. So that was kind of the saving grace in it. But I learned as I got older that if I woke up with a hangover, I could just keep drinking.
Oh, man.
And that's how I could avoid the hangover. And it was I found a flaw in the armor. So that's what I did. And for
Wow.
several years I did that.
And when you did that, you probably didn't even know yet that's like how you become an alcoholic.
Right. Well, I didn't know what was happening to me until I actually didn't know what was happening to me until I dated this girl Tessa. She was one of the first, just pure, wonderful, innocent girls that I ever dated. And I went out and I went to, I think it was Tyler, Texas, to meet her family. And I met her dad, and her mom and dad were divorced. And, well, he was apparently a alcoholic or a recovered alcoholic at the time. Or I'm fuzzy on the details. But when I met him, I was just like, oh crap. Like, this is where I'm going. And I didn't want to do that to her.
Yeah.
So I just, made up some terrible excuse that everybody does in a terrible situation. It's just like, I don't think the Lord's calling us to be together. It's not you, it's me.
Yeah.
You look fat. And then she just was,
You told her she looked fat.
no, I didn't.
How did that go over?
I had more sense than that. I didn't have a death wish until later on in my life. But no, so then we broke up because that's when I realized, oh man, I know what I'm becoming now, and this is not good. But I was already in it.
Yeah.
And so I didn't know how to get out of it. I
Yeah.
didn't know how to, I had no shovel strong enough to dig myself out of the hole that I created for myself. but yeah, so I mean, I just kept drinking. I drank for several years. I drank from 15 to about 22 years old. That's when I finally just started. That's when the Lord really started doing things with me. It was, I had reached the end of it. I couldn't take it much more. I had attempted suicide, or technically I think I successfully pulled it off, because I think I was deceased or unresponsive. That's the word they use, for about 5 to 7 minutes.
I remember that now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was so traumatic for everybody.
It was terrifying. But then, even after that, even being in the hospital, going through all those things. So I was in there for about 3 days and didn't move at all. I mean, I was hooked up like a battery, and it was pretty scary. It must have been terrifying for my family, and my mom and my dad, and
all of us. Amber and I remember when all of that happened. And,
but see, that's what a lot of addicts, but just people who have just any kind of addiction, they don't know what it does to the people in their circle, because everybody's just like, well, it's my life, I can do what I want. And you can, but you need to know what it's going to do to the other people around you, because once you start getting that and thinking about it and because I started getting visions of just how it must have been to my mother, and it was just overwhelming for me.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, and the next thing is I find joy in talking about these things, and I love talking about it, because it just shows number one, how awesome the Lord is, because how he can move in somebody that is so broken and messed up. Because I'm a firm believer in everything happens for a reason. There's no such thing as coincidence. There's no such thing as luck. One of my favorite movies is Star Wars, and in it, Obi-Wan says, in my experience, there's no such thing as luck. And so all those things, because I've talked to so many people, and they're just like, well, it didn't have to happen that way. It's like, well, and that's fine, and everybody has their own opinion. But from where I stand, what would have happened if I didn't take that drink? Where would my life have gone? So you can just start kind of analyzing it, and it's not over analyzing it. It's just, well, maybe if I didn't take that drink, then I never would have been the person that I was to cause my wife, when I first met her when I was 18, to reject me.
Yeah.
Well, and in that rejection, it gave me a tenacity to overcome the rejection.
Yeah.
And then through that, gaining the tenacity gave me the strength to overcome that addiction whenever I decided to quit drinking. And in that, now I have 2 wonderful kids. I have a great wife. I have this life that the Lord has just blessed me entirely, and it makes me think of James chapter 1, verse 3 through 4. When your faith is tested, your endurance has a chance to grow, so let it grow, because when your endurance is fully developed, you are perfect and complete, needing nothing. And so that's just the things that you go through, and it goes back to the character building thing. A lot of this stuff is really character building. You just plow forward. You don't fixate too much on what's going on at the present time and just be like, this is the worst it's ever going to get. No, it's not.
Yeah.
It's not the worst it's ever going to get.
I remember you came to me one day, because Jack had done our family doctor had done your blood work, and you came to me and you said, I'm going to die. Yeah. There's nothing I can do. I'm going to die. And I was like, there's always a way.
Oh, yeah, there's always a way. And the Lord can make a way. Yeah, he told me that I was on the way to have cirrhosis of the liver. He said my liver counts were just terrible. He was just like, if you don't change something right now, you probably don't have but a couple of years left. And I was just like, well, I can't change. I don't know how to stop. And so finally after I turned 21, then I could get it all freely. I was just like, oh man, now it's on.
Floodgates.
Now it's a party.
Yeah.
But I got to this point where I just reeked of it constantly. I just looked like a walking corpse.
Yeah, you did.
And so my mom was like, you've got to go to rehab. You just got to do it. And I was like, I really don't want to, but I respected my mother.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I'll go. So she loads me up in the car, hadn't drank anything all day, and get into the rehab center. And they were like, okay, before we admit you, we have to take your blood alcohol content, and you have to do a breathalyzer. Well, the breathalyzer just blew hot. It didn't read anything, so they had to take me to the ER. And that is kind of where the sobriety started. Because they had to give me these pills to help me come off of the alcohol, because otherwise I would have gone through massive withdrawals and could have gone into cardiac arrest. Which Jack, my doctor, got really mad at me whenever he found out that I quit it cold turkey. But he was, but so they gave me these pills, and they're supposed to make you feel like you're drinking, but you're not drinking, so there's all this stuff. Went about a month of that, and then had a relapse. And then sobered up again, had another relapse. Sobered up, relapse. So it was just a mess. But in it, the Lord kept his hand on me. And he didn't let me get too far out of my boundaries, and he had a plan, and he knew exactly where I was. That's the thing. He always knew where I was. He wasn't going to let me get too far out of the realm. I mean, he was going to correct me when I was wrong and if I did something entirely stupid, but he's a merciful, loving God, and he's not going to punish you. And so there's that grace thing that started really kicking in with my life on a different level that I didn't know, and that I didn't know of. And so one of the last days that I drank, it was this week-long bender. It was miserable. I mean, I was drunk every single day. I mean, like drunk.
Were you like waking up and drinking? And...
Oh yeah. And I'd been doing that for the last 4 or 5 years of my life.
Wow.
But this one last like big bender, it was the worst I ever felt. And I was like, I'm gonna wind up back in the hospital again, because I wasn't really peeing or anything like that.
Oh,
Sorry if that was too much. I mean, sometimes sometimes it happens.
Yeah. That's scary.
Yeah, it's terrifying. But
so it's like, where was the liquid that you were drinking being stored up?
Yeah, just all in my blood cells or something like that. I'm not even too sure how all that works. But one of the last days, I was just like, you know what? Because I wanted to die. I was sick of it because the attempted suicide didn't work. And then I was just like, okay, but I got to have a reason to do it. So it's justified. My brain was a crazy place. So I went out to Jacob's Liquor, got a bottle of vodka, and I was just driving through town, just drinking it, running red lights, going over, just being the absolute most reckless person that you could possibly imagine. Yeah. And I was like, when a cop finally catches me, I'm going to take off my seatbelt and drive head straight into a telephone pole and be ejected from my car. I'm not going to feel a thing. So I did that for about 30, 45 minutes. I was like, I don't know why a cop's not. This doesn't make any sense. And I'm just driving around, being crazy, cutting people off. And finally, I was just like, this is not happening. This is unfair. You know, it was so stupid. It was so stupid it was bizarre how I looked at it. And get home, passed out, wake up, and there was blood on me. And I was like, oh my goodness, I hit something. So my mind, first thing I thought of was, I hit somebody. I hit somebody in my truck, and I dumped them or something like that, but it all came from me. I was coughing up blood during the night. But when I walked outside, it was Sunday. I was going to go to church and all this stuff, and I walked outside and saw this cop car at the end of the street just sitting there. And I was like, that cop car's never there. And all of a sudden, the Lord spoke to me, and he showed me every single thing that I did the night before, and revealed that there was a cop that was following me home, and he just followed me. He didn't flash his lights. He didn't do anything like that. He just followed me home, and basically just like a kind of a guardian angel kind of thing. And he was waiting for me to get in my truck in the morning, because then he was going to pull me over. So it's just kind of weird how all these things, happen. And I've had run-ins with the law and all this stuff, and the Lord appeared to me with huge aspects of grace in that. And it's one of those things that I've carried on, that I'm like, grace isn't just for the deserving and the desirable. Grace is for the beaten down. It's for the broken. It's for the bruised. It's for the people who think that they don't deserve it. That's when grace really is going to come in and totally reveal itself in such a huge capacity that you're just overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And you don't know what to do. So after all that, I was just like, oh my God, I finally could see who I was and who I was being. And after that, I just like hit my knees and I was like, I need help. And that was really the first time that I asked for it. Because before that, I didn't want to let go of drinking, because that was kind of like my first love.
Yeah.
And I just didn't want to let it go. But that day, I was just like, God, I need help. I need guidance. I need you.
So you hit rock bottom.
I finally hit rock bottom. Yeah, I was falling for a really long time. Finally got there.
Yeah.
And hitting rock bottom really isn't a bad thing.
Yeah.
I mean, because you have a calling and you have a plan and a purpose over your life. So hitting rock bottom, sometimes being stripped of everything you think you are, is when the Lord can really do something great with you.
Yeah.
You had said that it took a really long time for you to get to that place, to hit rock bottom. But in our minds, the rest of the family, it really wasn't that long.
Yeah.
I mean, we watched all this, started with you around, 15 years old or so? And then when was it that you had the major collapse where they had to take you to the hospital?
I think that was 21.
21.
I think so, yeah.
And then how long from that point to when you really got delivered from alcohol?
Yeah, it was just about a year.
So it was really only 6 or 7 years during that part of your life. And you went down such a dark road between that first drink and when the Lord really delivered you in such a short period of time. And that was what I saw, and that's what I experienced through the whole thing, because I was in law enforcement at the time and my head was somewhere else, and I probably wasn't there for you as much as I should have been during that period of time. But I was concerned and I was praying for you. And the world that I lived in, I saw people going through this type of thing routinely, and many of them didn't make it out.
Yeah.
And that's, to me, that's what impressed me as being such a miracle in your life, that the Lord brought you to that place where he stopped you and redirected your future. And I look at that as the lifting of a generational curse in our family. Dad's father lost his life due to addictions and to alcoholism. And I think all of our viewers really can identify with this, because at some point we've all had to face some kind of addiction. Every single
Everybody
person.
does.
And understanding that and how that operates in your life, but also how God can use that as a tool in your life to bring you to the place that you're supposed to be is really important. And it may be a horrible, life-threatening addiction. God has the power for that. He has the ability to change that in your life. That we have a lot of people that pray that have kids or grandkids that are going through those things. And like I said earlier, a lot of people just don't think ministry families go through this kind of stuff. We were a mess. Several family members that have gone through issues with that have gone through issues with addiction and different things, and not walking with the Lord during periods of life. I didn't walk with the Lord during my teenage years. I had a 4 or 5 year period where I got way out there. My issues were not as much to do with addiction, but I broke the law. I did things I wasn't supposed to be doing. I certainly wasn't following the Lord during that period of my life. But he finds that key moment to turn us around. And we were just discussing on the show earlier today, grace, how the Lord shows us grace in those moments to his people. He shows his people grace, those who are marked for his kingdom. And no matter what we've gone through or how hard it's gotten or how dark it's gotten, he can turn that around.
Yeah, and and I always thought that was just like the worst that it was going to get, and just like, oh my gosh, well I've seen it all now.
Being dead for 5 minutes is about as bad as it gets.
And I mean, and the things that you see when that happens, and to all the people that think that, because there is a lot of people that don't believe in heaven. There's a lot of people, but then there's equally as many people that don't believe in heaven, but they believe in hell.
I've always found that real interesting, by the way.
It's so weird, isn't it?
I never asked you this. But did you, and maybe I know, but did you have any kind of experience while you were out?
100%. So it was while I was gone. Now
5 or 6 minutes dead.
Yeah, 5 or 6 minutes dead. I remember vividly, it was just this stone path, and it was kind of like the threshing floor out there, how it's going up to the cross.
Yeah.
But it was just this stone path, and I was walking up, and there was this person at the end of it, and so automatically I knew who it was. I was just like, okay, this is Jesus.
This is bad. That's the man over there.
I was just like, it worked. But to my left, there was just kind of like a desert thing, and to my right there was just kind of like an open field, and I was just like, okay. So I just kept walking, and the desert on the left, as I kept walking, the desert on the left started becoming even more barren, like more barren than just a regular desert, and you could see like the cracks in the ground, and there was just dead twigs. It was just death on that side. And on the other side, the field started turning into this, it just looked like paradise. I don't really know how to explain it. There was this huge tree, and there was this river, but like the grass in the river was just flowing like there was a breeze going through it. And so finally I get to the person at the end, and I didn't have words. I had no words whatsoever. I didn't know what to say, and I thought it was a hallucination or a dream. And so he turns and looks at me. He was just like, well, this is what I have for you. This is where you're headed. And really what that was to me, it wasn't like a heaven or hell thing. It was you're going to miss out on the kingdom aspect, but I want you to receive kingdom, And so I was just like, what can I do? And that's when I woke up. I woke up with a tube shoved down my throat or something like that. I was in a hospital. I was freaking out. I was panicking, all these things. And the only thing that I remember was Keith acting a fool and screaming and hollering, and I don't think he claims he didn't punch the doctor, but could have.
Oh my God.
Probably did. I'm almost 100% certain.
There was a lot of emotions going on.
There was a lot of emotions, and and some. But see, all of these stories, when I'm not sharing it in a more serious fashion, there are so many funny aspects to it, really, because I'm a silver lining kind of person. I don't like to look at just doom and gloom. And also my name is Isaac, so it means laughter. I'm going to take those bad situations and try and turn it around for good. It was like the lady at the hospital that goes through and prays for everybody at the hospital. She came into my room finally. I'm on drugs to try and level me out and try and not feel whatever I was feeling. And my friend Christuya was in the room with me, seeing me. And she walks in, she was like, would you like me to pray for you? And there was something off about her. Like, I didn't like it. And I was like, no, I'm good. And she was like, are you sure it's just a quick prayer? I was like, I appreciate that, but no, I'll pass. And she was like, okay, well, God bless you. I was like, thank you, you too. Walks out, and my friend Chris was like, why didn't you want her to pray for you, man? Like, you're not doing that well. I was just like, no, I love it when people pray for me. I just didn't want her to do it. She had just something about her.
So your discernment was working even though you were really out of it.
Yeah, so that's good. The Lord works in mysterious ways, and that was one of them.
Yeah.
The psychiatrist that came in that was trying to get, I think Dad to sign off to let him take me. And Dad wouldn't do it.
Let them take you
to the psych ward, because apparently I was wacky or something, which maybe I am, but I'm fun kind of wacky.
He was scared you'd get stuck there.
Yeah, and I think
they wouldn't be able to get you out.
He totally looked like a demon to me, so I was just staring at him.
Your dad?
No, not Dad.
Oh, the psych ward guy.
Yeah, not Dad. But this guy was talking to me, and finally, Dad was in. I think he was in the room, but he was just like, you need to. I'm going to be taking you with me, and I just looked at him, and I was just like, let me tell you something. Once you get me out of here, I'm going to sober up, and I'm going to make your life a living hell. And I was like, you think you want to take me now? You're going to give me right back. And so, long story short, he didn't take me. But yeah, and even Dad, he walked in there one minute and he just looked at me and was like, well, I hope you're happy. And I'm just sitting there like, eh.
Your dad was so...
And he was like, look what you've done.
Sometimes that's what you have to say in the face of hell.
You're what you have to say.
In the same day, your dad told me that it was all my fault.
And you know what?
We didn't even buy you the alcohol, man.
Yeah. And you know what? But hey, he knew he had such faith in me and he had such faith in the Lord that the Lord was going to pull me through it, and that's what I always look at with him. And because he's been this person in my life where now growing up, me and him didn't see eye to eye. Yeah. We didn't have the best relationship. But as I got older, I learned to respect him highly, and even now, I mean, all the things that he does, and I was always mad at him as a kid because I was like, because he was away all the time. I was like, my dad's always away. He's missed my birthday. He's this, he's that, and kind of resented him for a while. And but finally, as I got older, I've learned to respect him, and I tell him how great of a father he is because he is. I can't ask for a better earthly dad. I mean, he's been one of the best things in my life, and over the past year, me and him have bonded so much. I mean, but when I got sober, me and him started bonding. That's when the Lord started repairing mine and his relationship. So even all that, and me and him just, even to this day, we still joke about that. When he came in the hospital and he wanted to pull the plug on me. But like, we still joke about it.
I didn't know that part.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we missed that one.
But yeah, I mean, that was a confidence thing that now everybody knows. But no, it was, me and him have such a good relationship, and we have bonded so much, and I respect him for all the things that he did, because the things that he did was hard.
Yeah.
Having to leave his family to go on this calling that the Lord had him to do. A lot of people can't do that.
Yeah.
It makes me think of Nicodemus in the Bible, It was just like, you have to leave everything to follow me.
Yeah.
And Nicodemus was like, nope, ain't doing it.
And now the Lord's been restoring all that.
He's been restoring every single aspect
all the
of
time.
it. Yeah, everything in our family.
Yeah.
Like, and the family that you lost but you've gained with us. The family that John Mark and his family. Me and my family. There's all these things that people from the outside, if they were looking in through the glass, seeing how dysfunctional we were, would have been like, there is no hope for these people.
Yeah.
But thankfully, hope's not up to them.
Yeah.
Thankfully, forgiveness isn't up to them. Yeah. Grace isn't up to them. That's up to the Lord. So the mess the Lord saw, he was just like, man, just a little bit longer, and I can do whatever I want with this. And then I can make it such a great, masterful work of art. And I mean, look where we all are now. I mean,
it's wonderful. Like we're all
tell us a little bit about what's happened with you since the point that the Lord really delivered you from alcoholism and redirected your path for the future.
Well, since then, first of all, the girl that originally rejected me when I was 18 is now my wife. And we got. I was sober for about a year and a half probably before me and her re-met, and it was crazy how that worked.
She was maybe the only girl that rejected you, because I remember all the girls were kind of after you.
Yeah, it was a super hot topic.
Yeah, I don't think rejection was a big thing in your life, was it?
Which was shocking, because it's not like I was handsome. I mean, I was tall. I've had that going. I'm 6'4", so that was always a good thing for me. And but I wasn't. I was like 300 pounds. So that was kind of. I wasn't a desirable. But so I met her originally when I was 18, rejected me. She wanted nothing to do with me. She didn't know who I was. And I liked that, because we were at a conference and she was like, I don't know who you are. And I was like, I have to be with this girl.
In any other context, that would sound a little dysfunctional, but in your case, the Lord used that in your life to get you where you needed to be.
No, everything about my life sounds dysfunctional until you know me. And then you're like, oh, no, it works.
It works.
You know,
Yeah.
so
Same puzzle, all the pieces just up.
yeah, exactly. Well, it's kind of like whenever I finally met her again, and you know, and she was like, "Oh, my name's Celestine." I was like, "Oh, I know who you are," you know. And there was this guy with her at the time when they came here for the conference. You know, this was over 9 years ago. That's how long we've been married. Awesome. But you know, so they were kind of a thing, and I was just like, it's not right, but I have to end this. I have to break this up.
Like her relationship she was in?
Yes. It had to happen. You know, before they let, and I just kept trying to, you know, talk to her. She didn't really want anything of me, but I made it known that I liked her. You know, I wasn't hiding my feelings, but I wasn't trying to be a jerk or be
very
too
persistent.
You know, I was being respectful. But now I get to tell it in the way that I want to tell it. Also, she's not here and can't stop me. But they were about to leave, go back to Hawaii, and the guy she was with was sitting right next to her. And so I came up to her. I was like, hey, you know, I just want you to, I would love to stay in contact, you know, get to know you more. And I was like, but I did see the ring on your finger. Are you married? Are you engaged? And she was like, well, it's complicated. And the guy's, remind you, sitting right there. And she was like, well, it's complicated. And I was like, it doesn't have to be complicated. And so me and him were about to throw down in the tabernacle in front of God and everybody.
Goodness.
But we didn't. But yeah, so followed her to Hawaii basically the next week. So stalking works.
Yeah.
And so that's what everybody needs to know.
I didn't realize you went the next week.
Yeah. The next week.
I don't think I've heard this whole story before.
Oh yeah. Basically, after the conference was done, the starting the year off right conference was done. I went up to Dad's office.
Right now.
No, it wouldn't.
To soften the blow, just a little bit.
Yeah. Well, and then when she watches this, I'm gonna be in trouble. So, but yeah. So
you know what they say: if you're already in trouble, go ahead and do it.
But went into Dad's office, was like, hey, I need to get a plane ticket to Hawaii. And he was like, what for? I was like, I've got to go there to get my wife. And he just looked at me and he was like, okay. And we got the plane ticket. And then Josh Black went with me. So we get to Hawaii, and her dad wanted her to meet. Her dad wanted her to marry either I think it was a Hawaiian guy or a Samoan guy or something. But when he met me, and it's not me boasting in it or whatever, but I was after I quit drinking, I gained a lot of respect for other people, and I try to treat my elders. I try to say yes sir, yes ma'am, and I try to be respectful. And so when I met him, I was very respectful to him, and I shook his hand and did all these things, and and he wasn't used to it, I guess. I'm not too sure, but he just took one look at me and he was just like, yeah, I like this. And he was like, hey, and he's a big Samoan guy. Mm-hmm. And so he looked at me and he was just like, hey, so I heard that you're hitting on my daughter. And I was like, I'm about to get beaten up and thrown in the ocean. I'm going to disappear and nobody's going to know what happened to me. And he was like, and I was like, well, sir, with all due respect, I don't hit. I've got zero game, but I like your daughter a lot. And he was like, okay, well, I like this, and basically gave me his blessing, and I pursued her for the next week. Didn't tell her that I liked her. Mm-hmm. And sure enough, after that, 28 days later, we were engaged. So, I mean, when you know, you know. But very whenever persistent. I told everybody that we were engaged, 28 days of being together, they were all looked at me like, if it was someone else, we would tell you to be careful, but since it's you, it kind of makes sense. Yeah. And I was like, I didn't know how to take that, but I took it as a compliment.
So Isaac, you've shared all of these things with us, and it just really illustrates the work that the Lord did in your life from the point, where you got saved and the alcoholism broke, and He brought you Celestine, and you got married. Tell us a little bit about what happened after that, the ministry that the Lord led you into through the gym and up here. Yeah.
So after we got married, we started the Shiloh Fitness Gym, which was actually Ike and Teens at the time, and through that, we used it as an opportunity to kind of minister to people and, tell people our story, because a lot of people loved how we met and and we always were able to give it back to God and just be like, well, it was because of the Lord that he truly did bring us together. And so, we used the gym as a ministry, but then the Lord kind of started taking us out of the gym once we got established there and brought us into different parts of this place. And we've seen this place develop over the many years being here to what it is now. And what's so great about it is that, we now have, just like we have this show, and this show's, super awesome, and we do our Shabbat things, and we do, so it's through the Shiloh Fitness Gym, you kind of see people grow, and everybody who has come through that gym has gone on to a different aspect of the church.
Part of the ministry.
Yeah, and it's kind of a bringing in thing, but it's sort of it's a healing thing for a lot of people. Yeah. There's somebody that works there right now. They're going through something, but they're being healed just by being able to fellowship with people. So it's very much a fellowship kind of ministry. You just come there and you just fellowship and you just enjoy each other's company.
It's kind of neat how the ministry up here overall has so many different facets that people are involved in, and it's like watching the Lord just find the right spot to seed somebody in and begin to deal with them and break down the issues in their life, and then move them on to an even stronger place in the ministry. And just like Isaac said, we see people go from different parts, and we've seen how the Lord's used you and Celestine through Illuminate, through all of the theater production stuff and different things that go on with the ministry as well. And you've shared this testimony many times from the stage, and I've seen how much it's affected people.
Yeah, and that's a great thing. That's once again why I love sharing it, because as long as it reaches one person, that's all that matters. It's kind of like, as long as I can make one person laugh in the day, I've done my job. Like that is that's my calling. And it fills me with joy knowing somebody laughed. But through all this, I mean, through the alcoholism, through taking somebody who was such a wreck, who probably should have been dead a long time ago. I mean, the Lord spoke to me last year. He was like, "You're no longer on, you're not on borrowed time. So stop telling yourself that. You're not on borrowed time. You're on my time." Because I mean, the Lord's the author of that stuff. He's the author of time. He gets to, if somebody's going to stay or if somebody's going to go, if he wants to keep you alive, he's going to do it. I mean, that's just the bottom line. But I mean, he gave me a wife, he gave me 2 kids, he gave me all these different opportunities. I mean, and the most recent thing, as of last year, it was, I got asked to be a part of this Iona portal.
Robert Heidler's Iona portal. They're turning it into a series. Under his pen name, what's his pen name on it?
McNeil?
Something like that.
I want to say that.
Yeah.
So you guys just finished filming the trailer for that, didn't you, out in Dallas?
Yeah, so we finished filming the trailer, and quite honestly, probably the hardest I've ever worked in my life. It was long days. It was...
And nights too, wasn't it?
And nights, yeah. The first night, we had to be there by 2 p.m. and work until about 2 a.m. and my bedtime's 9 o'clock.
Me too.
So I can't do it. No, and it wasn't even a lot of coffee, because if I drink too much coffee, my heart
stops working
goes crazy. Yeah, it just stops working. Like, and
makes it worse.
And then you just get jittery and start saying funky things. And I already say weird things, so I don't need the coffee to help that. But yeah, so it was a long first day, and I was like, man, this is exhausting, and it gave me actually a more respect for actors.
It looks like you're headed that direction.
I don't know. I'm just the dude that's disguised as the dude that's playing the other dude.
But you're like, I think you're the
I can't imagine a better person to have portray that book series than you.
Yeah.
We're really proud of you in that. That's
I
cool.
appreciate it, but and I just try to stay humble, and I don't want to. If it wasn't for the Lord, I wouldn't be in this position. Because the whole reason why they asked me to do it in the first place was because of the Clockwork production that we did last year, and that's what kind of ramped it up.
And they saw your ability, your acting ability.
I remember that. That was a production that took place here at the church, and that was just incredible.
Yeah, and which it wasn't all me. I mean, the Lord totally gave me that song, but if it wasn't for Justin Reyna and Illuminate and even Glory of Zion to let us do it here, then none of it would ever happen. So I mean, but it goes back to, everything happens for a reason, and the Lord is in complete control 100% of the time, and a lot of the times we think that he's not, and we're like, do you know what you're doing? Yes, he always knows what he's doing. It's you that just have to be patient in prayer and just know that he's going to follow through.
Yeah.
He's always going to follow through. You just have to commit your actions to the Lord, and he will set your path straight.
Amen.
Yes.
That is a great closing statement.
Is there anything left you'd like to minister to our audience?
I mean, for everybody that's going through addictions, that has, kids that are going through addictions, if you're going through something yourself, there's always going to be a light at the end of the tunnel. But, you have to push through it and let the Lord truly do a work in your life. That's the start, because the Lord does not interfere with your free will.
Yeah.
That has always been the thing, and something that I had to learn. As at a young age, I always thought, well, if God's so great, then why doesn't he just fix the problem? No, he doesn't interfere with your will. That's the whole point of Jesus coming and dying for us. It's to give us the free will to choose to follow him, to choose to love him, to choose to let him do a work in our lives.
Yeah.
And so, once again, if you commit your actions to the Lord, he'll set your path straight. So, I just pray for anyone who's going through those problems, and if you have kids, just lift them up and give your problems to the Lord, because he's listening.
Amen. Thank you for joining us. And I know that you have a friend, or you have a family member, somebody who needs to hear this testimony. And so we encourage you to share it, and let's get the message out.